I want a woman to love me for my misanthropy.
But that comes later. We still have to court her, don't we? We take a shower first, don't we?
I do take showers. Yeah, I'm like here sopping wet. Like, you know.
Hello and welcome to Here in LA, Hollywood Edition. Today we're talking with the great writer, Jeff Weiss, whose bylines appear in the LA Times, the Washington Post, Pitchfork, Los Angeles Magazine, and so many others. He used to appear regularly in the LA Weekly until it fell into the hands of a man named Brian. Trust me, we will talk plenty about the Weekly and Brian. We'll also talk about many of your favorite hip-hop stars, because Jeff is an expert. We'll chat about Dr. Dre and Snoop, Tupac, Biggie, which rhymes with Lil Dicky. We'll debate if Post Malone is punk rock. We even talk about The Land, the magazine Jeff co-edits and has co-founded as a spite store of sorts to the Weekly. And it's good. You know, we talk about so much in this hour-long conversation, you may want to stretch before we begin. And while you do, put on some comfortable shoes as we enter the Hollywood-adjacent bachelor pad of Mr. Jeff Weiss. Jeff Weiss, publisher of The Land?
I'm a co-founder and a co-editor.
Co-founder, co-editor of The Land.
Yeah.
Print in 2021. Why?
I honestly think there's a lot of reasons. The first being that we live in such an ephemeral world where everything doesn't feel real. Like everything is obviously digital. There's something beautiful about when you do a print story, right? Like, I don't know, for instance, today before you came, I interviewed a writer named John Reshe, who's a legendary LA writer, wrote a book called City of Night. You know, I did what I thought was a very good interview with him. I think it'll be a good story. But then when you can kind of package it with, you know, some like great old photos of him and like hold it in your hand and flip through it, and it's something that can just live with you. And that's sort of, I think, the beauty of a magazine, right? Like both of us who were at LA Times for a long time, and it's like you were kind of LA Times like Web 1.0 blog guru. And
we'll say 2.0.
2.0, okay. But like I wrote for Pop and Hiss on the LA Times site for 4 years, almost every day. You can't find any of those posts.
Doesn't that break your heart?
They're all gone. The LA Weekly, it's like a series of like broken 404 links.
There should be a law.
There really should. Like if you purchase a publication, like you have like a certain responsibility to safeguard the digital archive. And like and also I would say that there's just such a beauty in like a print magazine is a piece of art, and that is, it's like a record. Like it's like, think about like a vinyl record versus a CD. Like a vinyl record kind of feels like a piece of art, whereas like a CD feels like a piece of plastic.
I know you didn't mean this to be an ad for The Land.
Yeah.
But speaking of,
let's make it an ad
art.
for The Land. Yeah.
Speaking of stuff that you cannot throw away.
Yeah.
The Land is beautiful.
Thank you. Well, that's Evan Solano, the creative director.
It's beautiful. It's thick.
Yeah.
It's girthy, if I may.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of punk rock. It's a throwback a bit to the zines.
Yeah,
as far
and
as
like
the art
alternative
goes.
underground magazines, I think.
But
like,
also the content
Yeah.
is not mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would argue proudly so. I don't know. Like, it's weird right now because like we are living in a kind of a post monoculture world, if you will. Like, you know, things are like, I mean, yeah, like for sure, like sometimes like, you know, the latest like King Kong Godzilla movie or whatever will be on like HBO Max or something, and like people, I mean, that is like a monoculture type thing. But conversely, like, I don't know, the stuff I always liked usually starts in the underground.
Was that the idea when you co-founded The Land, which was print is kind of dead in LA as far as like hyper-local LA?
Yeah.
And therefore, there's a great opportunity for somebody who still believes in this?
I wish we were thinking, I mean, we were mainly thinking like, how can I destroy LA Weekly? No, we kind of, it was just like one of those things where obviously we, you know, for those who don't know, basically The Land kind of started out of the ashes of LA Weekly when it got bought and like gutted by a bunch of like weird Republican Orange County Trumpists who like seem like they came from the Black Lodge in Twin Peaks, but it's actually the Lincoln Club and like, you know, Costa Mesa or something. You know,
I didn't know that was the lineage.
Yeah,
I assumed that The Land would have been created anyhow.
Basically, it started from this boycott, and that was just kind of, I wanted to educate people about what was happening because it was just kind of despicable. I think, you know, when you have the city's name in it, like you have an obligation to like the city itself. Like you can't just be like some kind of vulture.
Well, let me ask you about that though, because it seems like, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but if I were to be one about print publications, it is that conservatives get mad that journalism is quote unquote liberal.
Yeah.
You can't beat them, so buy them and bury it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. I don't think it's the whole part of it. I'm a big believer in there's usually not one thing, it's like 50 things or like 10 things, but I think that is definitely one of it. I mean, like, why else would like Rupert Murdoch be you know what I mean? Like, he owns everything. Sheldon Adelson owns everything, or did own everything. You know, the what's it called? The Alden Global Capital that basically owns all the local newspapers and has destroyed them. I don't know if they're conservative, which I assume they are, because almost to be a billionaire, you almost inherently have to be sort of evil. But yeah, I mean, they just, you know, they do. I mean, Patrick Soon-Shiong owns the Times. He's like probably a little right, but like he's at least seems like an honorable man on some level. I mean, and I think that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know. Then again, like I'm like about to say honorable man, but I'm like, I don't know. If you're voting Republican in this day and age, it's like kind of like you're kind of voting for some evil ass shit. Like we can argue about like on the left how left is right, but like,
but let's bring it back to the weekly though.
Yeah.
If my conspiracy theory wasn't true, that he bought it to bury it,
it was part of it. I think
we would see a weekly today.
Well, and that was what I always said. I was like, if they wanted to like win like the Battle of the Boycott, they could have just made it good.
Or make it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
It hasn't, I don't think, published in like since really I think they published a few issues during the pandemic, but they haven't. I mean, and the issues honestly for like once they bought it were like 14 pages, and it's like, you know, they had a bunch of people that weren't really from the city, and I think they had like, you know, one or two remaining kind of like stalwarts, so I don't even, you know, I don't even want to mention by name, because it's just like I honestly, like at this point, like I feel bad for I try to just pity people. Like, not everyone, not to say that like I have morals, but like I try to have like some dignity, like, and not, you know, not everyone has dignity. And
well, one of those people's arguments was that they had seen the weekly go through ownership changes before, and this is no different. But you were ringing a bell saying, no, this is actually very, very different. And it turned out you were right.
Yeah.
In that those people don't actually even have part-time jobs any longer. Because there isn't.
I mean, I think they publish online, but I mean, it's like, it's a joke. And then he bought the Village Voice, and then like, you know, it's a really, I think he's just like, I honestly think like in my heart of hearts, like ultimately, like he was just like a grifter, kind of like untalented Mr. Ripley was always what I thought. And then he's just kind of like floating around. I mean, he was kind of a Republican operative. I mean, he was bought by the person that he was the vice president of the Claremont Institute, and he was like, "Oh, that was a youthful indiscretion." And it's like, I don't know. I didn't join the Hitler Youth. Like, are you kidding? Like,
whoops.
What? Yeah. Sorry, I was a skinhead till age 27. Whoopsie. Like, you know. So I mean,
another one of the people who occasionally still writes for the weekly. Anytime that I raise my fist on Twitter, which, if not on Twitter, then where?
Totally.
But say nobody else wanted to buy the weekly.
That's 100% not true. Like, I know other people that had, like, I saw financial figures for the weekly from somebody that was interested in buying the weekly. I mean, they didn't buy it for that much. I mean, I forget what this, I think the sale price was like 1.2 million, which now in hindsight, like, I mean, what is that like weekly worth right now? About $100,000,
right?
Like, I mean, but at the same time, like, yeah, I think it was like 1.2 million, 1.3 million, somewhere in that ballpark.
So if those prospective buyers want it now, is it damaged goods now? Why?
Well, the name, I think, like, is, I think it's damaged goods. I think once a brand is dead, it's dead. Like, I mean, you can't bring Woolworths back. Like, you know what I mean? Like no one's bringing TNC Surf back. I mean, as sick as TNC Surf was, and it was sick. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like Atari. Like, no one's gonna be like, man, like, Atari's got a sick system going on. Like, it's just done. Like, when a brand is dead, a brand is dead. And I don't know why that is. I kind of I think it's silly, but it's like...
But to that point.
Yeah.
If you and I got the LA Weekly...
It'd be great.
And we'd keep the name. Because it's got an incredible name. For those who know...
If you could... I mean, if you had the money to publish it weekly... I mean, that would be incredible. Like, I mean, that would be like my dream. If someone's like, I mean, granted, like, I'd have to, like, you know, I'd have to sage the place like 15 times. Like, I'd have to call in
which place? The Culver City place?
You'd have to get a new place. I mean, we'd have to like squat in the Hollywood building, which I think is still vacant, right? Speaking of Hollywood. I think it's still, that was when the LA Weekly, like, you're like, that was when it was like the beginning of the end when they like moved from that Hollywood space, which was cool as fuck.
Was it cool inside?
Yeah, I only went there once or twice. Like they moved right after I started writing for them, but it was so cool and it was right in the middle of Hollywood and it just screamed like alternative LA, you know, like 90s Gen X and like, you know,
it screamed that from
it became neo-lib hell, you know.
Yes, it did scream all those things from the writing and the pictures and all that.
Yeah.
But that building alone screamed like 60s almost. Like that
Totally.
design.
It was a cool building.
Absolutely cool.
And they're like, "Oh, it's like a vortex. It's like a labyrinth in there." And you're like, "That's good."
Let's rewind real quick.
Okay.
Your parents came here when?
My parents were born here. My grandmother came here. My great-grandfather moved here on my mom's side in the late 30s, I believe, like at the end of the Great Depression from Chicago, actually.
How about that?
They're from Cicero. Well, they're originally from the Lower East Side. You know, they were like, I think he'd been born in Poland. And then my dad's side came here in the 50s, like in the mid 50s, you know, and
Where in LA did they land?
my dad grew up in like kind of like South LA, like South Central. He went to Audubon Junior High, and then they moved to Culver City when he was in high school. And then my mom grew up in the Valley. Yeah.
So did you grow up in the Valley?
No, I grew up in the slums of Beverly Hills. The thing about growing up in Beverly Hills that sucks is like you have to say it out loud.
And you have to phrase it like that.
Yeah,
the slums of Beverly
because
Hills.
yeah, because people like will. There is like the irony of Beverly Hills is it's like one of those things where it's like it's. You know, my family, I wasn't born there. You know what I mean? Like we moved there when I was like school age because being a Jewish family, like they're obsessive about education. It's like a very like ethnic thing when you come to the country. You know, you're like, we will get ahead by learning. So, you know, like we moved into like, you know, a little apartment and like, you know, I got to go to pretty good schools and, you know, but the irony is like most of the, you know, it's like the people that you think of that are from Beverly Hills, when you think of like the traditional Beverly Hills, all went to like Harvard Westlake, or they all went to like Brentwood, or they all went to Crossroads or something.
Are you a Beverly grad?
Yeah, I went to Beverly. Yeah.
Were you Pico Robertson or were you more Olympic?
I was right off Olympic, and then we moved like to like Pico and Beverly. But yeah, we like
Okay, so that area.
Yeah, like south of, you know, not 90210, 90212.
Yeah.
So.
But the thing is that I ask because. And one reason I want to do this podcast is the longer I think that people live in LA, the more that they don't put people like you in a box and say, because when you say Beverly Hills, well, Beverly Hills is actually really, really big.
Yeah, totally.
And
it's like if you include the hills, it's kind of like it's deceptively huge.
It's giant.
Yeah, like there's streets in like the hills of Beverly Hills that like I'm like I've never heard these names. Like that's you knew that someone was like really rich because you're like, oh, you know, they'd have like a name of some street you'd never heard of. Where I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I know Doheny, I know like Pico, I know like Olympic, you know, or Crescent Drive. But then, you know, you'd be like Oriole Way, Appian Way, and you're like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of these places. I think one of the things I'll probably write about in the next like 5 to 10 years is sort of growing up in the shadow of the Paris Hiltons and the Kardashians, who like you were like 1 or 2 degrees of separation from, and they're like this, you know. You almost in this like little like version of the world where it's like you're almost like this like peasant, even though you're you know what I mean, you're clearly not, because there is like the hierarchies, like even within like what you would think of as like the rarefied clique of whatever you think of as Beverly Hills, there's still this class hierarchy where you're, you know what I mean, my family were just like, you know, living south of Olympic. You know, which is, you know, and like for those that don't know, I mean, like again, like stupid LA geography, but it's like, you know, basically from Olympic to Pico is sort of like the middle, like the more like upper middle class version of Beverly Hills, and then you go above Olympic, and then it becomes like, you know, it's, I mean, there's not really obviously a slum, but you know, once you go north of Wilshire, then it's like, okay, you're in 90210. No, it's actually pretty nice. And then you cross Sunset again, and you're like, holy shit, like everything is a mansion. And then you keep going like up Sunset, like till you hit like the Mulholland Drive area. And then you're like, again, you're at places where I don't know. Whereas you two said the streets have no name.
You went to Beverly High. Somehow you became a hip hop expert.
Well, we did talk about that.
By the way,
there's a reason for that, but yeah.
Are there a lot of Beverly High hip hop experts who are Jewish?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the reasons why I got into hip hop, I think, was like beyond the fact that I think I probably would have been into hip hop no matter what, just because like I kind of feel the music in my bones, and like there's just some, it's like I don't know, like I love music and like just rap to me. I mean, also like rap like in the Dr. Dre era, like in the Dre and Snoop era, like forget it, like you're like a kid and then like the Chronic comes out and like you're like,
Well, what about Deep Cover?
I mean, Deep Cover I think was like. I don't think I might have heard Deep Cover on MTV Jams, but like I feel like my brain clicks for understanding hip hop when the Chronic came out, and then like about the same time, like basically my love of rap was maybe a precursor to like me becoming a writer, and I loved to read obviously at the time, and but it. Yeah, I mean, like, so for instance, but basically when I was a kid, like, I mean, I was like 10 years old. My friend's older brother was a guy named Mike Karen, who like is a big executive at APG. He connected to Atlantic, and he was a producer of a show that Alchemist hosted from like this place that called Larry Parker's, that was like a hip hop epicenter in the 90s. Like Shaq used to go there. They used to have like rap videos all the time, and like we'd go there, like if we won like the Little League tournament or something, they'd be like, okay, we'll give you free Larry Parker's or something. The food sucked, but it was cool as fuck, And Alchemist had this show called Funky Flavas, and like from like public access in Beverly Hills, and this shit was amazing. It's on Vimeo. You can find. I wrote a LA Weekly column about it. It's amazing. They're playing like the Far Side is on, you know what I mean? Like and then I heard Passing Me By, and I was like, it's the best song I've ever heard. I think I was 10 when that came out. It was like.
Okay, so let's rewind just a little tiny bit though.
Yeah.
Now that you are familiar with NWA's catalog.
Yeah.
And you, I'm sure, remember from Straight Outta Compton, Express Yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Where Dre says, yo, I don't smoke weed or cess because it's known to give a brother brain damage.
Yeah.
And
brain damage on the mic don't manage. yeah, exactly.
And then his very first solo album.
I know. You could not.
He's the weediest, stoniest,
You could not
greatest.
get away with that today. Well, I remember when Eazy-E dropped like it's on 187 Dr. Dre Kill Him, or that one, which is a great EP. I wrote about for Pitchfork a couple years ago, but like I love that EP. And like I remember he had the photos of like Dre from the Wrecking Crew and the lipstick and the sequins. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I was like 11 at this time, 12 maybe. I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. What? So.
But we learned a valuable lesson. People change.
Yeah.
People grow.
Well, yeah, and also the marketing of the music industry can really be a motherfucker.
A Raider hat can make you millions.
Totally. Well, those are cool hats.
Both of us were influenced heavily by MTV.
Yeah.
Heavily.
Yeah, for sure.
And
those MTV
to the
plugs,
point that I'm kind of a basic bitch when it comes to when I think about music, especially pop music. I would say the majority of the records that I bought when I was buying records were because I watched it on MTV.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the source. But, I mean, MTV put me up on a lot of amazing stuff.
Well,
I mean, MTV Raps is, like, unreal.
Well, for sure for hip-hop. Because, I mean, yes, I've subscribed to Spin.
Yeah.
And Rolling Stone and everything I could.
Sure.
But definitely Spin.
Yeah.
But until I saw a video of it, I probably wasn't going to be into it.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, that's gone for whatever reason.
Well, I think
it's
YouTube
gone.
is sort of,
But I'm asking you, how do you get into music now?
I mean, for me, it's like, I mean, I'm lucky now because I run like the blog, like POW Passion the Weiss, and it's like a lot of like the younger writers that like now it's like I kind of like can be like a little more of like the older guy that like the kids will be like, all right, well, I'm listening to this, which is great. I mean, like I hate to say it, but like my release radar on Spotify. I mean, I have certain hacks too, where like I've hacked like my Spotify to like get certain regional playlists, and so I'll like I'm really into like whatever is popping in a regional scene. Usually, like I kind of think like if a group of like, let's say 15 to 25-year-old, like usually black kids or, black and like Latino kids in a certain area are into it, it's usually pretty good. Like,
and there's playlists that say 15 to 18
no.
Latinos.
But I'm just like, but what they'll do is like, there's Spotify has certain playlists that'll be like, it'll kind of sort its way out for you. Have to like, it's not like you can't just subscribe to the playlist. It's like I kind of hacked Spotify. Like I found a hack. Like I didn't invent it. And but it'll be certain regions. So it'll be like, so let's say you're talking about Baton Rouge, which is like a place I love. Baton Rouge. I like lived in Baton Rouge for like 2 months and covered this murder trial out there for a little Boosie. It's a whole other long story. But so like if I want to know like who's popping on the streets of Baton Rouge, like yeah, or you can hack it. I mean, sometimes YouTube, like I'll hack. If I've like, unfortunately I don't have as much time. A couple years ago, I will, you'd like tailor the YouTube algorithm, but. Like, yeah, I mean, I'll listen to like, and so basically what I'm rambling about is Spotify will have certain songs that are popular in an area. So like, if Long Beach is a good one for LA, right? So like, what's popular in Long Beach? And it'll be like, it's not just like, what are the songs that are most played? It'll be like, what are the songs that are most played in relation to the rest of the country? So if like a rapper is specifically popular here, but he only has a couple 100,000 plays, but like, it's all in one area, then he'll pop onto it. So I'll discover a lot of rap like that. Sometimes people will tell me, you know what I mean? Like I discovered Kendrick Lamar because like one of my homies told me. It was a million years ago, but like, it, and like I like again, I have this thing called the Wrap Up on POW, and these two writers, Harley Geffner and Brandon Callender, are like, they just every week it's like, it's great because it's like now I'm just like older and I'm just like, fuck it, put me up on game, and that's like the great thing about like younger people, like is like if you're old, if you're lucky, you get older. And you really get two choices. You can either be like Gucci Mane or you can be like Young Jeezy. And I think like you got to be kind of more like Gucci Mane, where you kind of like have to be like, all right, like cool, I'm gonna sign the young rapper. I'm like, or like Yo Gotti, like in Memphis, like you're like, you can be like, you know what I mean? Like you can build like off like youthful energy is so valuable. They might not have like the quote unquote expertise or something, but like there's the way that a younger person's brain approaches something that like it doesn't come in with preconceptions. And like sometimes I have to like kind of catch myself, right? There's like this delicate balance, the famous like meme, it's like of The Simpsons where it's like Seymour Skinner being like, am I out of touch? No, it's the kids that must be, you know what I mean? And it's like, so okay, sometimes the kids are wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like people will be like, oh, actually Post Malone is like really good, and you're like, dude, he sucks. And I like Sublime a lot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I don't like that type of music. Like, I'm like, I like 311, a couple 311 songs. Like I go to Fish concerts. Like I'm not like a snob like that. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just, I'm like, dude, this guy sucks. And like when I wrote this big article for the Washington Post about how trash Post Malone was, and like, a lot of critics were like, oh, well, anti-populist, blah, blah, blah. And like, I got college kids being like, dude, thank you for writing. Like they were writing me letters like, he sucks so much. I can't believe these idiots at my school.
But you did like when he covered Nirvana.
No, I didn't like any. I've never like. He's a nice guy though. He like DM'd me after like we had our like after like I wrote mean things about him.
I want to ask you about Lil Dicky.
Oh my god.
And you kind of surprised me with Post Malone.
You're gonna be
because Post Malone seems so nice.
Yeah.
And because he seems punk rock. And because
really? I don't think he seems punk rock.
Putting a tattoo on your face is punk rock to me.
No, I think it's like kind of like I want to be a famous rapper, but like I mean he did commit. It's committing. I agree. It's committing. 03 Greedo once like got like he told me, he's like, I got a living legend tattoo when I was 20 years old. And he was like, nobody knew who I was. And I was like, that's a commitment. You were not getting a day job after that.
Where did Lil Dicky grow up?
I think Pennsylvania or something.
Can we talk about Lil Dicky real quick?
Sadly, yeah, if you want to.
You don't like him?
Oh, I hate him.
You don't like his TV show?
I think Lil Dicky's the least talented man on the planet.
You didn't...
I think Lil Dicky is
least talented.
I think he's like in the Black Lodge.
Who's second least talented?
I think he's possessed by Bob. Who's the second least talented? Lil Dicky's so untalented.
What? I'm shocked to hear this.
Oh yeah, I think
he's a member of your tribe.
I've talked to the rabbis about it. There's nothing I can do. Yeah, I can't stand.
Okay, so here's the thing. I love Lil Dicky.
Why? He's kind of racist, by the way. He comes off as very racist.
I don't care.
Well, all right. I'm not gonna.
I also love Ted Nugent. I also love.
That's fine. Well, I know my problem is like it's not. I don't actually think in his public life he's racist. Like I think probably deep down, like Lil Dicky probably like wants to do the right. I don't know who the fuck knows what Lil Dicky wants, but his art is like kind of racist to me. Like I don't quite understand why.
Explain why.
Well, okay. For instance, like.
Well, wait. First, have you seen his TV show?
Yeah.
It was addressed in the TV show.
Poorly. I mean, like the last episode where he's like goes to jail. I mean, like I don't know. Like for instance,
well, where the people are. Well, when they were on the Breakfast Club.
Okay.
And you probably know better because you're more in touch with the black culture than I am. What is that? Charlemagne the God.
Yeah.
And the young lady
DJ Envy maybe.
Yeah. Asks Lil Dicky on the show. The show's called Dave.
Yeah.
What's up with this black guy as your hype man?
Oh,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, aren't you appropriating? And isn't this? They didn't say racist, but they were alluding to that.
Yeah.
I thought that they addressed that and handled it fine, which was kind of like what you would probably say, which is I love hip hop. It's in my blood. It speaks to me. And it comes out of me.
Well, I would like it really. If you really want to get into this conversation, I would go back and read. Initial interview with my friend Drew Millard for Noisy back when it was about 5-6 years ago, back before Lil Dicky had a show, and he was like, I was like a marketing guy in San Francisco or something, which strike one, and he's like, but I had a lot more to lose than these like rappers from the streets because I had like a 6-figure job and like went to a good school, and you're like, hey, that's fucking racist, no, actually you had nothing to lose because you could go back to your fucking college degree and your 6-figure job. Like they weren't gonna be like, oh, you're 36 years old now, Lil Dicky, like we're not gonna hire you. But like a dude from the streets that's like, you know what I mean, that he doesn't have a fallback plan, like he doesn't have like a family, like, you know what I mean, it's like sometimes maybe they have a family structure, maybe they don't, I don't want to make generalizations, but like Lil Dicky, I don't know. Okay, so that's there. Like, A, to have that mentality. B, his shit is like, he thinks it's not parody, but it's like kind of a racist parody of rap. The song with Chris Brown, like, A, then you bring in a fucking abuser like Chris Brown, not to be like super like, but yeah, Chris Brown kind of fucking sucks. Like, you're gonna collaborate with Chris Brown and like be so amped to have him to be saying the N-word. Also, like, who wants to say the N-word if you're a white guy? I don't. Not my thing. I understand Chris Brown saying it, but it's like, I get it. You think you're funny. Like, it's a word. Like, I don't want to say that word. You know what? Like, it's like not my thing. Like, you know what? Like, I am more than happy to let other people have that word, and that's totally fine.
I'm so happy I asked this question.
Yeah. No.
But before we forget.
Yeah.
What's up with Chris Brown?
Why is he still around?
How has he not gotten canceled? How did all these people work with him
canceled
for a minute, and then he's on the Grammys again?
I think, that is weird. I mean, like, I don't know, right? Where it's like,
yes, he's a great dancer, but there's lots of great dancers.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I personally, I never quite understand. I mean, like, I know he's talented, but like, I've never liked Chris Brown's music. So like I also like don't quite get it, you know what I mean? Like I'm like with like R. Kelly, like obviously R. Kelly should be canceled. Like clearly at this point, like you can't defend R. Kelly. But like when like you know what I mean? Like R. Kelly's a world-class talent. We can all admit that, like regardless of the hideous behavior that he's done, that is completely you have to condemn. He's a world-class talent, should be canceled. But Chris Brown, I'm like, dude, like really, is it that hard to cancel Chris Brown? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? But people love Chris Brown.
But again,
Young Thug loves Chris Brown.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're more in tune with the black culture than I am.
I don't know about that, but
among the hip hoppers,
yeah,
they love Chris Brown and they love Rihanna. I would think that it's very easy to pick one of the two. Why do you have to have both?
I don't know how anyone could not choose Rihanna in that head.
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. And when you think about all the things that both of those people have given to the world, Rihanna's dwarfs his.
For sure.
And yet, I mean, I'm kind of glad that picture of her face leaked out. Because when you hear about spousal abuse or domestic abuse, those are such generic terms.
You're right. It's unforgettable. Like, I mean, I like to, I mean, like, honestly, you're right, actually, to mention that, because it's like, when I think about Chris Brown, I can't help but think about her face. And like, that is so haunting. Whereas like, let's just say we never saw the photo, right? Then it leaves an opportunity for people to be like, oh, well, who knows how bad he hit her. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it was you know what I mean? Versus, like, it's like the Megan Thee Stallion thing. I think now you see with Tory Lanez, where it's like people are like, oh, well, he didn't even shoot her. You know what I mean? There's not, You know what I mean? There's not like this harrowing thing, and seeing Rihanna's face. I mean, to be fair, whether Rihanna wanted it leaked or, you know what I mean? That's like one of those things where it's like it's a horrible albatross for Rihanna to have to bear. I assume, you know, that aside, yeah.
I was actually in the LA Times when that picture got leaked.
Yeah.
And Richard Whitten, who's a fantastic criminal reporter, he was outraged because it came from the police department.
Oh, did it? They leaked it?
And he was like, somebody's going to get fired for this because you just cannot do this. This is, first of all, it's evidence.
Yeah.
But it's also, it just happened. Yeah. And it's private.
Totally.
Who wants to be seen like that?
That's horrible. Yeah.
And I don't think Rihanna.
That must have been a horrible.
I don't think Rihanna needed that to be leaked out.
No, and like that. I mean, that is like a really like whoever leaked that. Like, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like you almost have to like that is just such an immoral and awful thing to have done. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, Rihanna was like 19 years old at the time, 20 years old at the time. I mean, and that's the thing really about like
on their way to the Grammys.
Yeah, it is so great. Yeah, I mean,
so you're all dolled up.
Yeah,
I can understand a little bit of black culture because I am black. When there's a football game and there's a team with a black quarterback against a team with not a black quarterback, we always root for the guy with the team with the black quarterback.
Unless it's Russell Wilson, maybe. I'm just kidding.
Even him. Even the light-skinned brothers.
Yeah, well, it's not, the skin color is not fitting up with Russell Wilson, but I'm just...
Well, among the black community...
I'm just playing... Yeah, no, totally. No, I'm just making
we do take joke. We do take a note of the shade.
Totally, yeah. No, it's a topic I have no comment on. So it's not my place, but yeah.
So I can understand why black people will support Chris Brown. Speaking of the LA Times... While I was there and that picture had come out, I was overseeing all the blogs at the LA Times, including one that I had created called Chatter. And Chatter, what I wanted to do was we had 40 blogs. Yeah. And I knew, including Pop and Hiss. Yeah. And I knew that no sane person was going to be able to read all of those. No. So I wanted to have one blog that was kind of the greatest hits of the comments. Of all these blogs, because sometimes the comments are better.
Yeah, not anymore, but for a time there was before Twitter.
For a little, absolutely. Yeah. And so the comments on the Chris Brown news story had a lot of people saying, "Don't make fun of my baby boy, Chris Brown."
Yeah, people loved Chris Brown.
They loved him.
Yeah,
so I put those in a post with a headline. Chris Brown fans defend beating of Rihanna.
Yeah.
Because we had Google Juice back then.
Yeah.
And I knew that this would explode.
Yeah.
And even in those comments, they were like, damn straight.
Wow.
And so I think that has prolonged. I think that for some reason, he can do no wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's bizarre which celebrities or whatever get that many. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It like you would. I mean, he was. I feel like. I mean, yeah. Performing at the Grammys was a very weird thing. Like I would have thought. But sometimes people like. I mean, will Tory Lanez be given? I don't know. I mean, I think DaBaby just did a song with Tory Lanez and it was like a whole controversy or whatever. I mean, I think a lot of people are like. It's interesting, right? Because we do have with the Rihanna thing. You're like, oh. You have this, and like, granted, I'm not an expert on the Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion beef. Like, I'm not, or like, I think he shot her, and that's awful. Obviously, like, I don't think we need me to be anti-shooting people. I think that's, but like, I mean, that's like where we're at. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yeah, I think it's awful. Obviously, I don't know necessarily. I mean, I was never a Tory Lanez fan, so I don't quite. I mean, I met him once. He was nice, but like, who the hell knows? Like, I don't know. It's a weird time. In like the kind of I don't know for like I always think about like Sugar Free. It's one of my favorite rappers of all time, and I just did like a podcast on him, and it was just like, I mean, is Sugar Free like maybe like a bad person? Like maybe like I mean like he's probably pimped women. Like that's a pretty objectionably awful thing. Like you know what I mean? Like you can't defend.
Phil Spector's bad. Suge Knight is bad.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean Phil Spector probably. I mean Suge, yeah. I mean people say that Suge Knight's a nice person though, and no one really says it about Phil Spector though.
But we appreciate what they've done for music.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like kind of the thing where it's like, it goes to the age-old separate the art from the artist question. And for me, it's like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I would never tell anyone what decision to make. I think it's a personal decision for them, whether they can get over it. I mean, there's certain artists I can, certain artists I can't. Like for me, Michael Jackson was when I was a kid. That was my favorite. I mean, that was like I grew up in a house where there was one record, and it was Michael Jackson.
Which one?
It was Thriller. And then like when I was old enough, it was like Bad, and like that was the only record we had was Thriller, and that to me was just like the end all sum of music. And I loved Michael Jackson so much. I mean, like Captain EO, like the Moonwalker video game. Like, I mean, give me more. Like, you know what I mean? Like Dangerous, I loved. Like,
Did you read his book?
No, I never read the book.
Moonwalk.
No, I never read the book.
It's great. I'll loan it to you.
Yeah, I mean,
but it looks like you got a lot of books to read.
Yeah, but I can't listen to Michael Jackson the same way anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I can't listen to Michael Jackson the same way. I didn't even watch the documentary. I just like, I kind of like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I kind of believe them.
Okay, let's try to focus on this last segment about Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because we've gone all around the world.
Yeah.
Fucking Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Biggie died in Hollywood.
Well, sort of. He died mid-Wilshire area, but let's call it. We can round up.
I like to call that Hollywood.
Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile.
Yeah.
Miracle Mile is mid-Wilshire, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Beastie Boys wrote all their best songs
In Atwater. Well, not all their best songs. I mean, like,
the Beastie Boys produced their best albums in L.A.
Yes, I agree with. I'm a Check Your Head guy, but Paul's Boutique is great too.
Where was Check Your Head recorded?
Check Your Head is, I think, recorded in Atwater right here.
In their little studio.
Yeah, in their little studio in Atwater. Yeah. I think L Communication might have been there too, but I don't know.
Wu-Tang Clan had a Cribs.
The Wu Mansion.
What about the West Wu Mansion?
Yeah, the Wu Mansion was in the Hollywood Hills. Yeah.
They didn't have a mansion in New York?
I think they had one in New Jersey.
What is it about LA, and especially Hollywood, that is okay for hip hop? Because you would think that if I'm truly keeping it real, especially in the East Coast, West Coast fictional world, you don't come to Hollywood. You don't come to LA. Like that's the joke. That's the punchline of the joke. You stay in New York. You stay in Brooklyn.
I mean, but you've heard Going Back to Cali, the Biggie song,
Well, I also heard the LL song.
Strictly for the weather, the women, the weed. Fat Burger.
By the way, did you like the Biggie Netflix doc?
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Or it wasn't even a doc. It was.
I thought they were really. It was a doc. Yeah,
it was a doc. Yeah.
I thought it was really smart that they focused on his childhood because I thought that was like the most like kind of trodden territory.
And those graphics were great because those of us who live in Hollywood, we don't know anything about New York like that.
Not like that. No. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think it was like interesting that they focused right on like where he grew up and that part of Brooklyn,
So you're saying it's acceptable for East Coast people to come to LA to do their thing because of the women, the weed, and what else?
I just have this making a joke, but that's the Biggie thing. But I mean, I don't know. Like, there's not really a West Coast East Coast beef anymore. Although, like, to be fair, like, I mean, like, again, like, there's the YG song "Don't Come to LA" that I always like joke about, but it's like, Pop Smoke did get killed in the Hollywood Hills by allegedly by some like Hoover criminals. You know what I mean? That's what they're being tried in court, and it's like you can still like. I mean, that's like kind of the point of YG's "Don't Come to LA," where it's like. LA is still LA, like the murder rate is still, it's creeping back up. It's still like there still are Bloods and Crips and Hoovers and like Tresses and like all, you know what I mean, all kinds of like sets in LA. Like it is a turf city, and you have to kind of know where you're going or have the right like guides, and especially if you're like a rapper, because like you have if you're a popular rapper, you probably have a really nice car, and you probably have really nice jewelry, and you're probably a big target. And you're probably on social media, and people are probably smarter than you think they are. And
so would you say that LA is more dangerous than other places if you are?
I mean, nothing's like Baton Rouge, but I mean, like LA is pretty dangerous. I mean, Chicago is pretty dangerous. I mean, like it just like it, it's like weird, right? Where it's like, I mean, obviously, like you can't be like, but there's something about a city when it does like lose its edge. It's like New York got like Giuliani'd out and like Bloomberg'd out, and like it kind of did lose its spark a little bit to some degree. I mean, I hear New York is like back again and awesome, and I believe that. And LA, like that is my concern with LA. It's like all this like you don't want a city to be too smooth, like you don't want it to be like you want like a certain like, I don't know, like, I don't want to be a victim of crime. Clearly, like, that's a horrible thing. I don't want anybody to be a victim of crime. Conversely, like, I don't want my city to be a bunch of like rich fucking like yuppies and yoga studios, even though I like yoga. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's cool. Like, you can like both. It doesn't, I want my city to have room for people that are poor, people that are working class, people of like all, you know, ethnicities, and like that's such the beauty of a city. I was reading Ralph Ellison the other day, and he was like, I think America will die when everyone starts to become the same, right? And like, it was just celebrating, you know, kind of I feel Ralph Ellison's kind of slept on in the game these days. You know what I mean? Like, everyone, like James Baldwin, everyone talks about James Baldwin's amazing, but I don't know, give Ralph Ellison deserves a little shine too. I think pretty good.
Let's talk about your freelance life. Most of your professional life has been a freelancer.
All of it.
So,
I never had a staff job.
So when Shock G dies,
Yeah.
the Washington Post comes to you.
Well, I like wrote like some, you know, like maudlin obituary tweet, so that's why.
Through your tweet,
I've been friends. My editor, I've written for the Post now for like almost a decade, so, you know, might even be a decade at this point. So yeah.
But I mean, of course, I would choose you as the person.
Thank you. Yeah.
But why should the Washington Post, who has all the money in the world now?
Not really, though. I mean, like, they do have Jeff Bezos money, but like the arts and culture section is generally like doesn't get, I think, historically as much as the rest. Of the
But again, I would assume that they could get anybody. They got you. Is that because there's no love for Digital Underground on the East Coast, or it's because you are the man?
I mean, there is definitely less love for Digital Underground on the East Coast. Maybe it was my Humpty impression. Was like, all right, stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you used to. I look funny, but you're making money, you see. So you know what I mean? Like, they knew that, obviously.
Obviously.
You know, like, I never got busy in a Burger King bathroom, but I
don't think I'd want to.
No. That's why I was. Well, apparently it was originally, I once got busy in a BART station bathroom, but they changed
better.
it. No, it's better, because that's like disgusting. Like a Burger King bathroom, you're like, gross. But like,
Well, first of all, I didn't even know they had them.
BART bathroom. I've never been in a BART bathroom. No.
I didn't know we don't have them here.
Are there no bathrooms in the subway here?
No.
I guess I've never been in a bathroom in the subway here. Yeah, BART station bathroom, and they changed it because they wanted more of a national appeal. But I mean,
which then they ended up having to bleep.
But conversely, like, Burger King tweeted at me afterwards. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I was like, we'll never think of Burger King bathroom. And like, how can anyone think of a Burger King bathroom the same way? You can't. Yeah, I mean.
So anyhow, they picked you to do this obit.
Yeah.
And
I have a great editor too. He's like, David Mallitz is like one of the all-time great editors. So
what was his name again?
David Mallitz. He's like an all-time great editor.
Along those lines, since you have been a freelancer your whole professional life, other than him, would you like to give a shout out to other outlets who pay you fast?
For pay me fast, that is a really good question. Vinyl Me Please pays really fast. Shout out to them. Well, I don't have to fight with like Audio Mac. I did a piece for them. They paid really fast.
Audio Mac?
Yeah, they're like it's like a streaming company. They pay really fast. Nobody else pays really.
Right.
No one pays really fast. You have to really like hustle. I'm trying to think who else pays fast.
Which by the way, we're gonna. I keep saying that this is the end of the thing, but I have so many questions for you.
All right.
Advice for freelance writers.
Quit.
And photographers, any of that stuff.
Law school.
I would think
Med school.
My advice is, don't think that writing the piece and finishing it on time is the end of your job. I would think the second half of your job is somehow getting that money.
Oh yeah, it's like, I mean, like, yeah, like I have like a ledger sheet, you know, like I'm not like that fancy, but it's like a notepad, you know, and I always have like, yeah, you're a debt collector half the time. Yeah, it sucks. It's like,
so that's
I've never not, for the record, never not got paid. I have haunted people. Like, there was this is actually funny. It was like once, it was like my old editor at the LA Weekly, Ben Westhoff, had me interview, like somehow, like he had a book, and I think it was, I swear I think it was called Black Man Magazine, which is like really funny that they had me writing about, like, he is very white, you know, and like it's just like it's like I don't know what the deal is. I swear it might not have been called that, but it might.
If it's not, I want to make it.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was called Black Man Magazine, and I wrote this article, and like this editor was like not. It was like that was the hardest, and I was like, but I haunted him for like 8 months, and finally I think he was just like, I don't want to deal with this motherfucker.
8 months.
I mean, it's been a year. I've not got paid for years. Like a year is the longest I've gone. But I wrote actually for. It was like Wax Poetics. I shouldn't say that. I mean, they have new ownership now, and like actually, the people at Wax Poetics are phenomenal, and like I have nothing bad to say about them. And they were an independent magazine, so like fine. Like it didn't bother me that I didn't get paid for a year because I was like, you know, as an independent magazine, like I get it. Like you're waiting on bills, like you know what I mean. Like it's like, but if like Condé Nast is like not paying you, then you're just like, I mean, whatever. I mean, they're probably in financial duress. More like maybe the Washington Post, but they actually they pay on time. Believe it or not, they pay really fast.
Of course, I would believe it.
They pay really fast.
But still, it's okay. So your tip would be keep a ledger.
You have to keep a ledger.
How often should you bug the person? Once a month? Twice a month?
Twice a month, I think. Like
every 2 weeks, write an email.
Every 2 weeks, and just be respectful. I think, and like just be like, hey, because usually it's not the editor's fault. I mean, almost always it's never the editor's fault. Usually it's like this like Kafka-esque labyrinth of bureaucracy that fucked you up, you know, or like 9 invoices and like one of them is like you mislabeled a number or something, and like you know what I mean. It's always like that bullshit. I mean, like I hate companies that make it. The companies make it so hard now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's been the other thing that's so funny is like as it's gotten more, it's like now it's like. Okay, give me your grandmother's social security number, her date of birth, her maiden name, and like the blood of your unborn child. You're like, what?
Should we have a company that works as a middleman for all these freelancers?
That would have been a good thing, I think, a while ago. I don't know if there's enough freelance money to go
that's true,
around.
huh?
Yeah. I mean, probably actually, though, like if you were going to be like, all right, I'll take 5%, just you'll never have to do it. Like, I bet you people would.
Okay, my next bit of advice that I'm asking for you is about Hollywood.
Okay.
Let's say you are Axl Rose.
Okay.
From the Welcome to the Jungle video.
Yeah.
You get in the bus in Indiana and you come to LA.
Okay.
Where should you live in Hollywood if you want to be in the entertainment business of any sort? As a writer, as a musician?
I would not live in Hollywood.
Where would you live?
How much money? Am I broke?
Yeah.
Oh, you're broke. I would live... I mean, like, it depends. Well, it also would depend on, like, am I street smart? Like, you know what I mean? It's you're some, like, hayseed?
You're hayseed. You're hayseed. Either you've had some college or you just graduated and you're like, I don't want to be an intern in blah, blah, blah in Iowa City. I want to move to LA. I don't care that I don't know anybody.
Well, okay. If I'm not white, then I would say, like, I would move into, like, South Central because that's, like, you know what I mean? Like, somewhere, like maybe the 30s or 40s or West Adams or something, because like that's probably get the best deal. If you're white, like I mean, and I don't say white because it's like not safe if you're white. I say white because it's like don't be like a white gentrifier in South Central. Like it's like not a good look. You know what I mean? It's like you know what I mean? It's like
can Axl Rose really be a gentrifier just by moving into a dumb $1,200 apartment?
Axl's nowhere a gentrifier. You're right. Because Axl's sick. So, and like now, especially, he's kind of atoned for his like past kind of racial sins that like, you know.
I don't think poor white people can be gentrifiers. Don't you have to have some money and power to be a gentrifier?
Well,
and open up a coffee shop in East LA?
I think that's a very interesting point, and I think that's like probably part of a more nuanced argument that like people don't really necessarily want to have, where it's like, you know what I mean? Like if you're like, for instance, like Silver Lake, right? Like I mean, like. I always said that like people were like when I wrote this article for LA Magazine where they're like, you know, I this isn't technically Silver, but it's like the same, you know, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's like a block away. So, and like if people were like, oh, how rich it is, this white gentrifier talking about the other white gentrifiers. But it's like, okay, no, I actually came here because like I wanted to like be a creative person. Like I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be like an artist. I wanted to be like part of a creative community of like-minded individuals of all types of ethnicities. And I came in to contribute, not to siphon away. And I think that should be really what the definition of a gentrifier is. It's like, are you taking or are you giving? It's like, I don't like Erewhon, like the people that want to go to Erewhon, those are like you know what I mean? It's dead. Whatever. This neighborhood has been dead. You know what I mean? It's like, I say like Silver Lake was dead when they took away smoking inside Spaceland. That was the moment for me. I was like, shit is done. You know? Was Axl? Yeah.
Hold on. That was a good scene, by the way.
What?
The upstairs of Spaceland.
That was great.
With the motorcycle helmets hanging from the ceiling.
Hell yeah.
And I don't even smoke. Do you smoke?
I used to a little bit. I never was like a smoker, but
I don't smoke. In fact, secondhand smoke actually affects my nose in a major way.
Yeah.
That was the only place I wanted to be. Unless the
super
band
cool.
that I came to see was playing,
Yeah.
then I would leave.
You were just trying to talk to girls, admit it.
Of course.
It was a much better place.
Of
To,
course.
yeah, I mean, you couldn't have a conversation.
But you could
But
hear
like,
them.
You would actually. The thing is, you would meet really interesting people there, and that's I guess what it goes back to is like I want to. I not to say like I mean like granted like I think at any age I'd want to be around interesting people.
So hold on. I think we can even pinpoint the year. You're talking maybe like
08.
2004. Oh,
No,
08?
it was like 08, 09. Yeah, that's like when it died.
Okay.
So really, I moved to this area in 05. I was living in Eagle Rock before that because I went to Occidental, and it. Yeah, it was cool. Like it was still, it hadn't really gentrified the way that people, you know what I mean? It had a little bit, but
You mentioned Erewhon. I forgot you wrote that article.
yeah, don't like Arrow.
That was a great article.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Was that your most popular article of what was that, last year?
It
was that
this
last year?
It was this year. It was this year. I think it was like
It was
February.
2021?
It was like February. I know.
COVID has
I know.
fucked
Fucked
up my
everyone.
whole.
Yeah. No. I think it was February. Yeah.
That had to be your most popular article of this year.
It might have. I don't know. My grandma article was pretty popular for LA
Hold on,
Magazine.
and that was for
a great editor. LA. Mayor Roshan's like been like an amazing editor. Like
that was
he's
Los
like,
Angeles
yeah,
Magazine. You wrote
yeah,
that for, right?
Yeah.
I thought I was supposed to feel about Los Angeles Magazine.
I mean, I can.
Aren't those also out of towners that bought that thing?
He's a New York Magazine. He's a.
He is
classic
a New York guy.
He's a classic. Yeah, and like you know.
But he's okay.
I think he's amazing.
Great.
I think he's one of the best editors. I mean, honestly, like, I think as a writer, I have never. I mean, like, there have been other editors that I could talk about, you know, all day, and like, this not to, you know, dismiss, but he has been so like, there's been very few editors that would be like, oh yeah, your story is good, but you know what would be better? Writing more and going deeper and like giving, you know what I mean, and like being more, you know what I mean? It's like most editors is like cut, less of that, and he's always like, no, more, like go further, you know what I mean? Like give me like, you get to the real core of it, and like, man, like as a writer, like that is so like,
it's a dream.
It's been amazing. Yeah, it's been honestly like one of my better professional experiences is getting an editor like that. You know, it's like,
Well, shout out.
yeah, Mayor Roshan's great. I mean, there are like, and you know, it's like people
Mid City.
Yeah, LA Magazine, they are Mid City. Yeah, I mean, Gwinnett Stewart's there, and she's great too. She's a former LA Weekly. She was a former LA Weekly. I think she was the culture editor or something. I think arts and culture, and she's great. She's all weekly lifer, and she's their online editor there. And so, I mean, they're really understaffed, and I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, you can't have any like enmity towards any of the. I think like the media in this day and age, like it's like, yeah, you can like not like a writer or something, or you can like, you know, think a story was bad, but at the same time, like we're kind of like, you know, as our man Eazy once said, we're all in the same gang. Like, you know, like it is like, damn, like it is a fucked up media landscape. So I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like I fuck with people at the LA Times. I mean the LA Taco, those are like my people. Like I love Javier and Alex, who's the founder of it. They're fantastic. And like I mean, it's just sort of like at this point, it's fucking, you know. It's Dire Straits.
All in the same gang.
Yeah, all in the same gang.
What was
Humpty Hump was on that. Yeah,
everybody was on that one.
Yeah, Humpty Hump was
MC
on that.
Light?
Yeah, MC Light. She's a good rapper.
Okay, we are gonna finish with this topic. Okay. White rappers. Because in a way, you are the white rapper of hip hop journalism.
Okay.
Okay. And
There's probably more white hip hop journalists though than there are white like.
Yeah, you're the only one that matters.
But sure. Okay. Well.
The
Paul Thompson. There's a lot. Mac Bell. A lot of good. Yeah, white rap. But whatever. Yeah. A lot of them.
And it's too bad that we're not going to talk about Kanye, but Kanye gets talked about enough.
Yeah.
The reason I don't think that there's a lot of white rappers is I think it's hard to bullshit as a good rapper.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's very easy to be a bullshit indie rocker.
I 100% agree.
Or even a pop star.
Yeah.
Sometimes even a dancer. You can fake it like TikTokers.
Yeah.
You learn a couple moves and you're cute. And,
Totally.
You know, you wear the yoga pants.
Yeah.
And you can make it. But I think it's because hip hop requires a skill that is a true skill. I can't talk as fast as I can't sing as fast as I can talk.
Yeah.
And it also hip hop, because what you were talking about the street culture of I forget what your word was, but You just can't fake it. You just can't fake it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real recognized real world. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, we talk about like I think we're talking about it like when you came in, and it's like, you know, like I don't know if you're not trying to be like I would never try to. I mean, I'd hopefully never try to be anything I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna like come out here and be like, well, I did not. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't grow up like this way. I try to like keep it as like 100 as I can. Like, you know, and people like, you know what I mean? It's like people always ask me that question. They're like, oh, like being a white person in this world, where it's like I've actually only, I mean, granted, like has every interview gone great? Most of the time, actually, yeah, they have. I mean, I've had obviously ones that are, you know, and often it's usually when it's more industry. You know what I mean? Usually, like, I mean, I've gone to like the craziest hoods of Baton Rouge. You know, I've gone to like Compton Courthouse like every day. You know, I've gone to LA County Jail. Like you know, I like met Draco at the LA County Jail. Like, you know what I mean? I've gone. I mean, that's one of the best parts about the job is like being some kid from like, you know, fucking Beverly Hills, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't fucking know anything. Like, you think you know shit. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, I like Wu-Tang. You know what I mean? It's like, I know like Dre and Snoop, but like, you're not going to fucking Compton. You're not going to South Central. And not to say like I'm showing up there every day now, but it's like, I learned, you know, I had a podcast for a long time with No Can Do, who's from like South Central, and I learned so much from him. He wasn't a gangbanger or anything. He just was like a guy that grew up in South Central. His family was from South Central, and he put me up on like so much knowledge about like growing up, and like, you know, that's been the best experience, honestly, is learning. You know, and like that is what I miss, I guess, about journalism now. No LA Weekly. It's like I had the coolest job at LA. I mean, it was like the pay was insulting, and like I should have been paid triple what I was getting paid. But I got to go every week to a different part of the city, and I loved that so much. And I wish that I had a job where, I mean, I don't have time right now, but like I wish that like I could write a weekly column, right? And they're like, go to a different part of this. It's kind of like what you're doing with this, right? It's like, because you meet people and you hear their different stories, and you like, you get outside of your like the narrowness of your perception, right? And I think like, you know, if anything, right? Like, I mean, like, where even something like, I don't know, just like the world would be a much better place. I mean, it's like, it's so funny because we talk about like, where are the most racist generally? Places where there's no people of color usually, because they don't, you know what I mean? It's like in general, like of course you can pick up 1,000 exceptions, but like, or like, you know what I mean? They're afraid of what people are afraid of what they know, because like, you know what I mean? Generally, if you get to know people of all, like, you realize people are generally the same. Like obviously there's cultural differences, but like people are generally the same. Like people want kind of the same things. Like, you know what I mean? And like it's, the differences are awesome. Like it's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, it's like being Jewish. I'm like, damn, like, you know, it's like, it's funny. I'm like, oh, I'll put you up on, you know what I mean? You want, like, I'm not going to give you gefilte fish or anything, but like lox and bagel, that shit is fire. Like pastrami sandwich, like, let's go to Langer's. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you want some matzo ball soup? Like, all right, you know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, certain like kind of like ethnic secrets of like whatever. I mean, for me, it was like, you know, being Jewish, you're like, actually the best matzo ball soup is Jerry's. Jerry's, the worst food of any deli in the world, Jerry's Deli.
Where's Jerry's Deli?
I mean, I don't think there is a Jerry's Deli
anymore.
It used to be the one in Beverly, which is famously where Tupac and Quincy Jones met for the first time, and because he was dating his daughter, and like I think Tupac had been like went off on Quincy Jones for like dating white women, and it was like also like, dude, he was like dating Peggy Lipton, like fallback Tupac. Like Peggy Lipton was like the star of Twin Peaks and the fucking Mod Squad, and like she's fucking cool. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, it's fine. But he was like dating his daughter, and then Quincy Jones, but I think it was the Jerry's Deli, and you know, Shaq, I remember, used to go there, but there was one in Studio City too, where it was the Jerry's Rock and Bowl, and now it's like a Pins or something. But
yes, okay. I keep thinking Junior's
was
in Westwood.
Junior's was okay.
Okay, so you're saying kind of the most famous, not famous, but the most popular chain Jewish deli in LA was also the best.
No, it was the worst deli.
Oh, okay, good.
But their matzo ball soup was incredible.
All right, fine.
That's what I'm saying. The best deli in LA, I would say it's probably a tie between Langer's and Brent's.
Where's Brent's?
It's in I think it's in Northridge. Yeah, it's in Northridge. I think Northridge.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Brent's is fucking good.
Okay, when we get to
the Valley,
when we get to Northridge,
yeah. For Valley delis, Arts is okay. But
what about Hollywood?
The best deli in Hollywood is probably Greenblatt's.
Right next to
another famous
the Laugh Factory.
Yes, that is probably. I'm trying to think. Is that the best deli in Hollywood? And Although my homie Yeasty Boys, I love his bagels, but those are really good.
Who? Yeasty Boys?
Yeah, it's not a deli.
All I've ever seen is the truck.
That's my guy. Yeah, he's a.
Do they have anything other than the truck?
I think no, I don't think right now. I mean, like, I don't think anything right now. But yeah.
So the next time I see it in front of the Elliott Smith wall.
Yeah, it's a good bagel. Yeah, I like it. Good sandwich. The sandwiches are really good. But yeah, I would say Greenblatt's, which is also a good rap story because in one of this is allegedly the guys that killed Tupac, they claimed that they met up with Puffy at the Greenblatt's. Like late at night, 'cause I think it's open late at night because of the Laugh Factory, and like then they were saying that Puffy like was like, I'll give you money to kill Tupac. That was like the famous, who the fuck knows if it was true, but it was allegedly at the Greenblatt's, which is some good hip hop lore in LA, so there you go.
Will we ever know who killed these people?
I mean, definitely we probably know who killed Tupac. I mean, what the motive? I mean, it was like. Like Vlad TV's done like 1,000 interviews. I mean, there's a book, Murder Rap, that was pretty convincing. They had a documentary on it. I thought it was pretty convincing. I mean, they said that this guy Keefe D and Orlando Williams, everyone assumes pulled the trigger onto. Like that was kind of like the fucking, what is it, Occam's razor? I don't know. Is that, or what's like the, like that? That was, everyone thinks it was Orlando Anderson. The Biggie thing is more complicated because I think like it's either people think that it's one of two people. They either believe it's the David Mack and Amir Muhammad thing based on like the Rampart thing, which like there's a lot of unanswered questions about it because like Amir Muhammad did match the description, and like David Mack had a weird like Tupac shrine in his apartment, you know what I mean? And like they were connected to Suge, so there was a little smoke there. And the other one was people would say that it was a guy named, like, I think it was like Wardell Pucci Holmes or something, or Fauci or something. But they were saying that was like Suge's hitter, and like he was killed like several years later in a motorcycle accident. So those are the most that's who people think did it.
Well, we have solved all the problems.
We have solved all the problems. We didn't even talk about how my website kind of solved Mac Dre's murder. So it was allegedly.
Power of the Weiss solved a
POW. Yeah.
Solved a murder.
We don't know if it's solved. I can't legally say if the murder was solved or not because I don't want to be held legally responsible. But it was a very compelling murder investigation to the murder of Mac Dre that we published last month. A very talented writer named Donnie Morrison did it out of nowhere. Yeah, it was one of the pieces I was most proud of. I'm like, oh my god, like this is like actually real journalism that we're publishing on my site. So.
Would you call it a website or a blog?
I call it a blog just because.
So a blog saved a murder. A blog or solved a murder.
I like the
a blog
school.
In 2021.
Yeah. Because
it doesn't exist. Blogsphere doesn't exist anymore.
That's why I like saying.
You and me probably have the last two blogs there are.
Yeah. Blog. I was a Blogspot guy back in the day.
Who wouldn't be?
Who among us?
All my secret blogs were on Blogspot.
Your secret, really?
Yeah.
Because everybody Busblog used to be pretty risque in its day. It's Howard Stern-esque. I mean, who doesn't love Howard? Howard Stern's a genius.
He is a genius.
He's one of the great.
Do you belong to my Howard Stern Facebook group?
I don't. I should.
Howard Stern for fans who actually like Howard Stern?
Really? I grew up on Howard Stern. I think
because there's nothing but hater websites on Facebook for Howard.
Really, I mean, like also like I love Howard's like arc. Where he like you know what I mean? It's like, did you buy his new book of like the interviews?
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, I have it somewhere in that
because sometimes it's better to read interviews, which is why I'm going to have a corresponding blog to all of these.
Okay, that's great.
So I'll link to all the stuff that you've talked about.
Yeah. Hopefully don't transcribe it so people can be like, Jeff
Weiss. No, I pay for the transcribing.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to cut some things. No, you can probably.
You tell me to cut anything, I will.
Cool. All right. I don't know if we.
Jeff Weiss, thank you.
Tony Pierce.
This has been great.
Pleasure. Yeah, an honor.
We could have talked for another 18 hours.
Yeah,
and maybe we will one day.
Yeah, catch me on another cell. I would love to come back and talk to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Oh my God, wasn't that good? You know what else is good? Our Patreons, who help keep this thing a-going. Mostly because when you give, you're saying, Tony, Jordan, here's a cup of coffee. Here's a nice beer. Here's a delicious burrito. Ooh, order some guac. Knock yourself out. So shout out to our Patreons, Nancy Rommelman, Allie Miller, Sean Atlow, Matt Mills, Sean Wallace, Greg and Molly, Emilio, and Jamie Taylor. Want Want to hear your name at the end of next week's show? Go to patreon.com/HereInLA and give till it hurts. Here in LA is produced by myself, Tony Pierce, and the man who worked all summer vacation sitting next to his wife and sweet angel, Jordan Katz. Editing, mixing, and music supervision by Jordan Katz. Songs by Orgone and Jordan Katz. We usually put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and we have a detailed corresponding blog that goes with each interview that can be found at hereinla.com. Special thanks for Cindy for creating the logo, Jen Adams for inspiring me to do this in Kim and Oz's backyard, Jordan from joining forces with me, and everyone who puts up with this, my current obsession.